Today we have with us John Hui, who is the Chief Information Officer at the Education University of Hong Kong, and we're gonna spend some time speaking to him about some of the modernization that's been happening at the university and some of the use of technology within the university. So welcome, John.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, thank you. Great. So just taking stock of where we are at right now, we are more than a year, almost 2 years into the pandemic. So how's the Education University of Hong Kong adopting technology for and enhancing online learning?
I think most of the institutions worldwide is quite similar. So we are not doing something that is very different or very advanced than others. However, when we always talking about how technology help the digital transformation, what I always highlight is we are not really focusing on using a very innovative technology or new technology, so-called, but we are trying to source whatever existing technology that can facilitate or fit for the purpose due to the business change. For example, very obvious, during the pandemic, suddenly, all of a sudden, we need to change from 100 or 90% physical teaching and learning activities to almost 100% become online. So it turns out that there are several very fundamental issues. The first one is the connectivity. Okay, so connectivity means it can be students who are at home, where their homes Wi-Fi, their homes network, broadband network is not well covered, or some student may be in other cities where there are some connectivity issue between Hong Kong and that city, for example, or region, for example, mainland. So we need to solve the very fundamental network problem by subscribing, for example, some CDN network and also some VPN network to make sure the student, at least they can connect back to the campus network. And for those students who are relatively maybe need help, they can find financial support from our student affairs office. So that is not covered by our IT department. And then after the connectivity, we comes to the very fundamental education technology that is from sound and video. From what you can hear and what you can see, that is very basic. So very quickly, we set up, for example, the Zoom, the Microsoft Teams, this kind of software for meeting that at least have the sound and can see the screen. Okay. Later on, we find that that's not enough because just hearing is just like listen to some video recording or whatever, because there's lack of the interactive between the lecturers and students, or even between the student and student. Even there's a breakout room in most of the platforms nowadays, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. It is reduced a lot the people's interactive and engagement, because engagement is a very key fundamental factor that affect their learning outcome. Therefore, we need to introduce a lot of other technologies. For example, we set up multiple cameras in some of our rooms so that the lecturer can use some of the camera to even zoom into very clearly how they do the STEM activities. For example, plugging a cable to a circuit. And the teacher can switch to another camera to, for example, zoom into the whiteboard. So the teachers can still teach one, just like where they are in the real classroom. They can write on the whiteboard, they can share PowerPoint, they can do some hands-on activities that online student can still see it. Okay, and after that, it's still not enough, because student can see doesn't mean they can contribute in an active way. So later on, there's a lot of so-called educational software, for example, Frequent, Mentimeter, or Padlet. This kind of software are all online tools that can enhance the interactivities between teachers and students, and between student and student. Of course, that there are something that we cannot 100% replace the physical interactivities. For example, some hands-on practical lessons. For example, chemistry experiments, some musical instrument that require a very low latency network that is not easily to be achieved. And also something that may need the experts to rethink whether we purely use technology to replicate whatever they have been done in real world life. For example, the examination. Examination is just a type of assessment. Whether it is the only type of assessment, of course not, right? So switching to online, 100% online, does it mean we just purely procure a lot of software, a lot of camera to invigilate the students, whether they are cheating in the examination, or whether the educational experts need to rethink of other types of assessment, which although I'm not a expert in that area, but I heard quite a lot of other professors or in our institution or other institutions, they are exploring other types of assessment. Okay, so that's all we have done at the very early stage of the pandemic, up to a certain level that online learning has largely been accepted by students and teachers. However, it's still not that perfect, and that's why you heard that when the pandemic situation is better now in Hong Kong, all the university has announced that they need to resume to the face-to-face teaching and learning. And even the kindergarten, the primary, secondary school, they are all in face-to-face mode now. So technology can facilitate, can help at a certain stage, but definitely not to totally replace it. So that is my sharing about what we have been done here.
Great. Thanks for all the detail. I mean, it's as you mentioned, stuff like chemistry and stuff like music. I mean, that's very very hard to replicate in the online platform. That's really tough. So it's really good to know that people have adjusted. So that's from the student and the teaching side, right? But from the administrative side, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered, and how has digital technology sort of helped in that regard?
So in administrative side, obviously, a lot of administrative activities need to be replaced. For example, interview. When the HR is doing the recruitment process, the interview switch to online as well. All the meetings switch to online or maximum. And also, for example, the admission, student admission. Every year, there's a lot of thousands of students come to the campus in the same day, on the same day to get their student cards or whatever, or submit their personal information and then get the student card on the same day. And during the graduation ceremony, or some institution call it convocation, so there's no physical convocation. And so there are a lot of things need to be changed, and the change need to be take time in a very short notice. Sometimes we only have 2 days to do something quickly, response to the business needs, and that's why time to production is another key to us. And sometimes automation is another challenge to us. So that's why in last year we have actually deployed quite a lot of things to help the community. For example, all the meeting rooms we have equipped with ceiling mics and cameras. Almost they can do the interactive meetings easily. And for the admission enrollment, we have quickly implemented the online enrollment platform for the student to update their information, upload their photos, and then they can come to get their student card anytime. For the congregation, we have changed the way how to let students take their graduate photo. For example, using the IG filter, so they can take a 360 degree photo, just like when they are in some famous memorable corner of the campus. For some of the administrative activities, for example, the banner, because we have been using banner for almost 20 years, so some of the functions we are still using a very human-centric mode instead of using the latest version of the banner. So this is not because of the software platform issue, it's because of the historical reason. So last year with the consultant from EdUHK, and we have done quite some improvements in this kind of area. For example, the course catalog update and course the CRN, that means a course information update. Every year it involves all the academic departments, administrative staff to do a lot of Excel, data entry, eyeball checking, this kind of stuff, and spend almost a month turnover. And then we automate the situation using the robotic process automation, RPA. So it can be done within minutes, so that all the data can be input correctly instead of some human typo. And it reduces a lot of eyeball checking time. Right? So the RPA we have implemented greatly reduced the process time from a month to just a day or some minutes. And then 2 years ago, all our tuition fee, the students' tuition fee was calculated manually in Excel and then import to banner. But with the consultants from EdUHK, we have automated by automatic fee calculation. So now there's no human effort in typing things or calculating things in Excel. The system will automatically generate the school fee based on the demographic information of the course, the program, the faculty, or the student type, of whether full-time, part-time, local, non-local, this kind of things to implement. So that, again, not just the automation, but the data incredibly can be improved, greatly improved, less data error. So all these kind of things can greatly reduce the human interaction, because automation means less human works and less error. That's what we have done. And also for we need to replace a lot of things that system that have been developed for over 10 or 20 years. For example, one of the system is the hostel management system. Hostel management system, the previous version is homegrown. A lot of if there's any enhancement or bug fix, it takes a long time, or there's a lot of testing to verify the logics. And every year there's some business change in hostel management because of the policies. So we cannot afford it. And eventually we change it to implement, we develop it using local platform. So local platform, again, is a new trend in the application development side, which can reduce, which can actually visualize the future system when we are discussing with the users. So the user immediately can visualize the future system and then can get feedback or comments at a very early stage. And the tools have some automatic logic verification so that it reduces the number of tedious testing by human. And the documentation, the future maintainability. I recall that we hit a problem that is not a bug, but maybe the user requirement is not clear at the very beginning. But in the production, we hit the bug, hit the problem. And in old days, if this kind of problem happened, at least we need to take a week to solve it. But for that particular problem, we just take a few minutes to solve it, because it's a visualize a UI to drag and drop and then change the logic with very good visibility, and the logic can be verified immediately and reprocessed. So we leverage a lot of that kind of automation to hopefully reduce the time to production and also enhance the future maintainability.
Brilliant. So it looks like you guys are even more efficient than before during the pandemic. It sounds
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sometimes sometimes when we are talking with our counterparts, we always are joking. So pandemic is not 100% bad things, but it really helped to advance the pace of some kinds of digital transformation. Of course, pandemic, everyone don't want the pandemic to come,
yeah,
and
yeah,
hope we can live as earlier. But indeed, during the pandemic, a lot of things have been advanced. Think about it. In before the pandemic, most of the professors or IT department are encouraging users to use technology to at least have some mixed mode, hybrid learning. Um, but that kind of mixed mode and hybrid is different meaning. Before the pandemic, the hybrid learning means some activities we use online, some activities using physical face to face. But now the new definition of hybrid is at the same time same activity. Some students are online, some students are in the classroom. So this
correct.
is same word but different meaning.
Brilliant, brilliant. So let's get back to the teaching and learning, right? So, what's started to happen is that all these online lessons and the students get a little bit digitally fatigued. There's just too much online stuff. Everything is via Teams and Zoom, etc. So how do you address that digital fatigue issue? When students just get very exhausted from the overuse of digital.
Yeah. So I think this point is difficult to be addressed by IT guy
Mm.
like me, but luckily I know quite some of the professional uh, educational side of professors. So I know a little bit. I hope I can answer this question partially, but not completely. So uh, yes, digital fatigue is a big problem, and it comes out that um, some students may even just turn on the system, turn on the Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and then disable the camera, disable the mic, and
Yeah.
then go out to go to shopping or go out without really attending the class. Okay, so what really uh, uh, help the student is not just direct lecturing. It's a it depends on the good mix of the instructional design. Uh, for example, if you just do the PowerPoint presentation for 2 hours, most of the students will fall into sleep at their home. So that's why some in our case, we are educational university. I heard that we have a department focusing on bringing the technology to teaching and learning. So they have a lot of workshops to guide the lecturers on how to design their class or lessons to at least enhance the engagement level of students largely. So it depends on the mix. So for example, they reduce the number of time, the duration of one directional lecturing type, and then increase more time for the group discussion, group presentation, or some interactive activities such as using, for example, Padlet, Mentimeters, Free Grip, okay, asking them to upload some videos, photos instead of just typing. Right? So it's not really a technology issue. Technology is there, so we have set up all the software platform there, but how to use it with a good mix and time duration consideration to reduce the chance of student being fall into sleep and enhance their interactive and active learning mindset. So this is very important. The learning attitude is more important. So how to cultivate the learning attitude is always a very tough, difficult set direction for most of the lecturers. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very, very true. You have to come up with some new tricks the professors need to use to make sure that the students are engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move into the specific use of Illusion and Fujitsu, right? So you guys have as you mentioned, you guys have Illusion on board. So how are you guys using Illusion and Fujitsu, and how's the education university using them to you know uh, sort of counter some of the challenges that you've encountered?
Yeah. As I mentioned before that we have been using Illusion Banner for almost 20 years, from I think since 2003.
Oh,
One of the earliest institution implementing adopting ERP in Hong Kong. Uh, at that time, most of the institutions were still using homegrown for their ERP. So ERP offer throughout the 20 years have been help us a lot. That's why almost every 3 to 4 years we engage Eurasian consultant again to see how we can use it better. 20 years ago, maybe we only use a partly of the functions, or some at that moment some of the functions have not yet been available in the banner, and later on they have make it available. So we need to see how to switch to their best practice, to switch their function provided from the baseline, and that's banner. And later on, we also use the degree works. Okay? Degree works is for degree audit, and then last year I have mentioned that we have rely on the consultant of Lucian to make our tuition fee calculation become automatic, and we have implemented the RPA to facilitate the cost catalog and cost information creation every year. Is very tedious, more than 2,000 records, but taking a month time. But now we just taking few minutes can input it. And uh, and coming, actually not coming, but we have started already last month. We are implementing the Illusion workflow and also the Illusion document management system to try to automate more processes to help our students, our academic units, our administrative units, because we find that automation is really important, not just for the time that that can be saved, but also reduce the chance of being have a human error in data input. So this is very important, and also throughout the automation, our student can fill in less paper forms, and then it's also a little bit environmental friendly. So we are actually quite keeping quite good relationship with Eurasian, particularly their consultants. They know our business. We engage them very frequently to see if there's improvement area, because they have experience of 2,000, more than 2,000 institutions worldwide. So obviously they have they know what is the best practice, and that's why we frequently ask for them to see if there's any best practice that can apply to Hong Kong's culture, to our education universities environment. So these are the things that we always rely on them.
brilliant. 20-year relationship. Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And one of the earliest to deploy ERP. I mean, that's a whole story in itself. Great. So finally, what sort of, if you could just give us a very, very brief run through of the sort of IT infrastructure that you use. If you use a cloud, if you use, what are some of the other aspects of the infrastructure, as well as what are the things that you're looking forward to deploying in the future?
Yeah, I think in Hong Kong for in Hong Kong, because we start the ERP quite earlier, 20 years ago. I know that all of the institutions are still using on-premises ERP, including education university. We are still using a lot of on-premises ERPs. For example, our HR, finance, student systems. However, we also have a lot of other systems that are homegrown. Right? As you know, Banner can only do the core part of the student management. A lot of other systems or platform or other business area, EdUHK banner rely on their premium partners. So I remember I have attended several the EdUHK Live several times, but unfortunately these 2 years due to pandemic I cannot attend it. So in the EdUHK Live, the exhibition hall, I think is over 50 or more booth, and all those are their premium partners. They are EdUHK advocates the ecosystem of the whole education sector. So EdUHK banner, their degree works, and also their workflow or ethos system. It's just a platform that can easily integrate with other area of the education sector. So I hope in future we can adopt more cloud technology. Maybe in the short term planning, we are still focusing on the hybrid cloud model because quite some of the core system is not easily to migrate to the cloud at the moment. If we start from nothing, it's easier to adopt to the cloud. But for example, our research management system, we start from nothing. That's why we can directly using the SaaS model of some products. But for the ERPs particularly, we are having difficulties, not just the technical difficulties, but also the legal side we also need to consider. For example, the financial data and also the HR data, whether we can move to cloud, because most of the cloud provider, their cloud data center is outside Hong Kong, and it may violate some policies that the data cannot be bring out the boundary of Hong Kong. So these are the difficulty that we need to solve. That's why for short term we will focusing on the hybrid cloud model, but in long run we will definitely look if we can move most of our critical infrastructure to cloud. Because in Hong Kong, the talent is not is having a shortage in the talent market. We are having very difficulty in hiring IT professionals, not just to implement, but also to maintain the systems. So turns I think for the future technology, actually there's no future technology, but in near future, we are definitely focusing on more on data analytics, data to drive the decision making or to facilitate the decision making. So data is the number one priority. And the second one is the AI automation. I have mentioned several cases of automation that we have done last year and will do in the coming months. But I think we need to have more and to implement the automation to help our user departments, because most of our user departments still heavily rely on a lot of Huckabee forms and Huckabee workflows, the human workflows. So automation is the second one, but still both are very high priority to us. So these two areas are very key to our future success.
Excellent. Yeah, in terms of the lack of talent, I think that's a global problem at the moment. IT talent is really in high demand and low supply. So it's not just Hong Kong; it's everywhere, for sure. Great. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, John. It's been a real pleasure. That once again is John Hui, who is the Chief Information Officer of the Education University of Hong Kong. Thanks very much, John. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for very elaborate answers. Thank you.
Thank you.